Imagine a man so terrified he ran down a mountain in the dark, shaking, convinced he was losing his mind, and wrapped himself in blankets, begging his wife to cover him. That man would go on to change the course of human history. For over 1 billion people alive today, this is the story of the night everything changed in a cave called Hira. Before we go further, hit subscribe and stay with me until the end, because the way this night unfolds, and what happened right after, is something most people never get told in full. You'll want to hear how this fear turned into certainty. Who was Muhammad before that night? Before any of this happened, Muhammad ibn Abdullah was already known across Mecca as a man of unusual character. He was born around the year 570 in Mecca, a city built on trade and tribal politics. He lost his father before birth, his mother by age 6, and was raised first by his grandfather, then his uncle Abu Talib. By adulthood, he had earned a reputation so solid that people called him Al-Amin, the trustworthy one. He worked in trade, married a successful businesswoman named Khadijah, and lived a respected but ordinary life. Nothing about his early years suggested prophethood. He wasn't a priest, a poet, or a public speaker seeking followers. He was simply a man increasingly uneasy with the world around him. The pull toward the cave. As Muhammad grew older, something in him kept turning away from the noise of the city. Mecca was full of idol worship, tribal rivalry, and moral decay that troubled him deeply. He began retreating to a cave on Jabal al Nour, the mountain of light, just outside Mecca. This wasn't a one-time visit. He would go there for days at a stretch, especially during the month of Ramadan, seeking silence and reflection. Historians and Islamic scholars describe this practice as tahannuth, a form of spiritual seclusion common among some Meccans who felt disturbed by the idol worship surrounding them. He wasn't expecting anything supernatural. He was simply searching for meaning. The night in the cave. Then came the night that Muslims now call Laylat al-Qadr, the night of power, traditionally placed in the last 10 days of Ramadan around the year 610 CE. Muhammad was alone in the cave when, according to Islamic tradition, a being appeared to him, identified later as the angel Jibril, known in English as Gabriel. The command given to him was a single word repeated with force. Iqra, read. Muhammad, who was not known to be literate, responded that he could not read. The command came again, and again he gave the same answer. On the third time, the being held him and then released it with the first verses ever revealed in the Quran, from Surah al-Alaq, instructing him to read in the name of his Lord who created man from a clot of blood. The terror that followed. What happened next is the part most retellings skip past too quickly, and it's the most human part of the entire story. Muhammad did not walk out of that cave feeling chosen or triumphant. He was shaking. He ran down the mountain in a state of shock, his heart pounding, convinced something was deeply wrong with him. He rushed home to Khadijah and said the words that had been recorded for over 14 centuries. "Cover me, cover me." She wrapped him in a blanket while he trembled, and he confessed to her that he feared for his own sanity, that he thought perhaps he had encountered something evil or that he was losing his mind entirely. This is not the reaction of a man seeking power or followers. This is a reaction of someone genuinely shaken by an experience beyond his understanding. Khadijah's response. What Khadijah did next is one of the most quietly remarkable moments in the entire narrative. Instead of dismissing his fear or panicking herself, she reassured him with calm conviction. She reminded him of his character, that he was a man who kept family ties, helped the poor, hosted guests generously, and stood by people in hardship, and that God would not humiliate someone like that. She then took him to her cousin Waraqah ibn Nawfal, an elderly man familiar with earlier scriptures, including Christian and Jewish texts. When Waraqah heard the account, he reportedly told Muhammad that what he encountered was the same angel who had come to Moses, and that he would face rejection and persecution from his own people because of it. This detail matters because it places Muhammad's experience inside a broader tradition already recognized by people around him, not something invented in isolation. Why this moment still matters. This single night in a cave outside Mecca became the starting point of a revelation that would eventually be compiled into the Quran, the central religious text for over 1.9 billion Muslims worldwide as of 2026. What makes the story so compelling isn't just the supernatural element. It's the raw, unfiltered human fear that came before any certainty. Muhammad didn't declare himself a prophet that night. He doubted himself. He needed reassurance from his wife. He sought out someone with more knowledge to help him understand what had happened. That vulnerability is often left out of simplified retellings. But central to why so many historians and scholars, regardless of faith, find the account psychologically credible rather than a fabricated legend of instant confidence. What came after? Following this first revelation, there was a period known as the Fatra, a pause in revelation that lasted anywhere from several months to a few years depending on which historical account you follow. This gap reportedly caused Muhammad even more distress, as he feared he had been abandoned. When revelation resumed, it came gradually over the next 23 years, shaping not just personal belief but law, ethics, and eventually an entire civilization that would stretch from Spain to Southeast Asia. The cave itself still stands on Jabal al Nour today, and continues to be visited by pilgrims who make the steep climb to see where the story is traditionally believed to have begun. What strikes me most about this story isn't the miracle itself. It's the honesty embedded in it. A man terrified, wrapped in a blanket, questioning his own mind, comforted by his wife, and guided by someone wiser before he ever stood in public and spoke a word of what he'd experienced. Whatever your belief system, that kind of raw human vulnerability at the start of something so historically massive is worth sitting with. If this kind of deep dive into religious history interests you, subscribe and turn on notifications, because there's a lot more of these stories coming, and you won't want to miss the next one. Drop a comment and tell me what part of this story surprised you most.